How do you let go of the fantasy the narcissist promised you? Just like in the 80s, when I was growing up, in the 90s, we saw a lot of Disney princess movies, right? And the princess always had a vision of what it would be like to marry the prince and live happily ever after. Well, even as adults, we do the same thing. When you get into a relationship, even if you're not fully aware of it, you have an idea of what you want your life to look like, how you want to grow with this person, what your life will look like with this person, with having a partner, a husband, a boyfriend by your side, right? So you do create a fantasy around it. Now, you do that on your own. Now, when you do get into the relationship and you're courting, you're dating, I know people don't say courting anymore. You're dating, right? You get married even. That partner also makes promises to you, some directly, I'm going to do this, we're going to do that, and some indirectly, right? Maybe things they may say, different messages they may give in the relationship that gives you a promise of what your life will look like with them, right? That is all completely normal. So in today's episode, we're going to answer, how do you let go of that when it comes to a narcissist? When you let go of the narcissist, now how do you let go of the fantasy? For those of you who know me, I often talk about, you're not really grieving the person, you're grieving the fantasy. But I had a really great lady, and I'm going to respond to your email in a moment. By the time you see this video, you probably will already have gotten my response. But she asked me, how do you let go of the fantasy? And I love that question. Thank you for sending that, because I do believe there are other women who have the same question you have. So before I get into it, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Nailah Abdullah. I'm a toxic relationship coach with a background in mental health therapy, and I work with women helping them to heal and to move on from toxic and narcissistic relationships. So in addition to that, I too was in a narcissistic relationship for 10 years. 2 of those years were marriage. I also have, unfortunately, experience with narcissistic family relationships as well. Now, to use myself as an example, the fantasy that I had around my narcissistic relationship is really the fantasy I had around any relationship, which was to grow old together, to start a family together, to build that family, instill great values in them, become entrepreneurs as the parents in the family, teach our children business, travel. I love traveling, explore the world. I had a whole vision of what I want my life to look like, right? When that relationship ended, like you asked and you said to the person that sent me this question, is how do you let go of the fantasy? It was painful. Yes, it was. It was extremely painful. And I was disappointed. I felt embarrassed. I felt foolish that I had given so many years out of my life to someone that I wanted to build this fantasy with. And it just all crashed in front of me, right? Yes, I did fulfill the goals that I had for myself personally, as far as going to school and starting my career and building my career, having great friendships, having family members that I gotten close to and love. But the part of building that family, creating my own nuclear family and building together and growing together and being happy and healthy, peaceful home, that all crashed in front of me. And that was extremely painful. So there is a part of grieving that person, but more so a part of grieving the fantasy. But here is my answer to you. You said the pain of letting go of the fantasy is much harder than letting go of the person. That is true once you realize that it's not really the person that you miss. So you are ahead of the game. Some people believe that I love the person and I miss the person, but you actually miss the fantasy. But here is the key. Ready? Write this down. Hold on to the fantasy. Do not let it go. You don't have to let go of the fantasy. Yes, let go of the person. You do have to let go of the fantasy that you've attached to that person. So break that attachment up. But you don't have to let go of the fantasy. You see, what we do wrong sometimes is we give the fantasy over to the person. They're not in control of your fantasy coming to fruition. We gave them that power. We put that fantasy on them and expect them to fulfill it. But really, the fantasy came from you, and actually the fantasy came from God. God does not want us to let go of the vision we have for our lives. He wants you to live happy, peaceful, prosperous. He wants that. So don't let go of the fantasy. We have to let go of the person. Let me tell you something. If I were to let go of my fantasy, I would not be where I am today. And I'm not saying this is the goal for everyone right now, because I know for sure when I got out of that narcissistic 10-year relationship, I didn't want to think about any serious relationship. I was okay with dating, but I didn't want to think of any serious relationship because I was very broken and I was angry and I was bitter and I didn't trust a soul. But because I worked on my healing, because I made sure I didn't allow this destructive person to destroy me even after the relationship ended and keep me stuck in bitterness, I made sure I had to work on my healing journey. And where that led me is healing to a place where I could start a new relationship, where I can get remarried to a healthy person and have a healthy relationship. And now I can execute that fantasy with the right person. So don't let go of the fantasy. Okay, if you've ever heard me say that before, let me clarify. You let go of the fantasy and toxic person connection. Detach that. But you have authority over your fantasy, not them. So take it back. Take that power back that you gave to them. You don't need them to execute your fantasy. You need you, the healed version of you, and God. Let me go into a little bit more about healing, right? Because a lot of times people misunderstand that I get out the relationship, I'll just heal because time will pass. Healing does not just automatically happen because time has passed. Here's some of the things I work on with my clients. Understanding and accepting that you apply the fantasy to the wrong person. You see, when you get out of these relationships, you have to dissect the dynamics of what happened. And you really do. I know I came out of the relationship like, what just hit me? What just happened? This seems like a nightmare. Like, this is not even my life right now, right? So you do have to start to understand what was the dynamics, right? Why did I choose this person to apply this fantasy towards? What I discovered, and we're all a little different, but I'll share with you what I discovered. What I discovered was, in my healing journey, you have to dig deep sometimes, I realized I felt very powerful and strong, which is not a bad thing. And I believe that came from my unconventional childhood of being on my own a lot. You see, I lost my mother when I was 10 years old. I was born in New Jersey, grew up between New Jersey and the Caribbean. I come from Caribbean parents. And I did a lot of back and forth in my childhood from the Caribbean to the US. And I lived with different people. So hence I wasn't always under the warmth and the protection of my parents. And that created a certain level of hyper independence in me. And regardless of that unconventional lifestyle, I still was able to accomplish the goals that I had set out for myself. So I always felt like no matter what, I can accomplish what I set out for. Where that messed me up is that I can't apply that to another human being. No matter how powerful and strong I am, I can't force someone to be who I want them to be. So even when I started to see the red flags, I ignored them thinking, Nailah, you're strong and you're powerful. You can teach this person how to be a better person. Why that was foolish was because I was ignoring the fact that some people don't want to be better people. They don't want to change. They may want to be connected to you because it's beneficial, but they don't have any desire to change and to evolve and to be good for themselves. And definitely they don't care about being good for you. So that was what I learned, why I applied the fantasy to the wrong person. I thought I could control everything. And because I had went through my healing journey and started to dissect the way I think and my approach to situations, my approach to relationships, I then realized, no, Nailah, yes, you are strong and powerful, but that only applies to self. You can't put that on someone else, right? So that is one of the parts of healing that I encourage you to do as you try to let go and detach that fantasy from the wrong person and work on your healing. The other part of healing I encourage you to do is understand what was the reason that you applied to the wrong person. So we talked about accepting that you applied it to the wrong person and why did you apply it to the wrong person. And the next part is what needs to change in your mindset and approach to relationships to guarantee you don't do that again. And that pretty much summarizes how I work with my clients. How did I get here? How did I get into this toxic narcissistic relationship? It's not by coincidence. You were chosen and you participated in their choice. There's a reason for that. That's not to condemn you. That's not to punish you. That's to learn about self in order for you to heal and to move forward. So how did I get here? Why did I stay so long? AKA, why did I ignore the signs? And what parts of me needs to change to make sure I don't end up there again? So like I just gave you my own personal experience, right? I had to shift my mindset to say, yes, you were powerful. Yes, you were strong. Yes, you accomplished the goals that you set out for, but you can't apply that to another human being. You have to pick people that are in alignment with you, who have the same values, the same goals. You see, the fantasy that I had for my life, I was applying it to someone who didn't care about putting in the effort to grow, right? They were too afraid to educate themselves and to grow and to try new things, to be around new and different types of people, to be in new environments. Traveling was not an interest of theirs, right? Did they want a family? Yes. A lot of times people who are narcissistic love family, but they don't want a family for the same reason you want a family. They want a family because of the image, because it looks good on the outside. It makes them look normal, right? It makes them look accomplished. They don't want a family because they genuinely have a need to pour into another human being. They don't pour into anyone. They take, they're takers, right? They're takers. Even if you may not have a lot tangibly, they are takers in energy and in your strength and in your spirit. They're takers, they're drainers, they're vampires. They don't care about pouring into anyone. So they don't have the same values that you have. And even if they say, yes, I want to make money, it's not for the right reason. They don't have the ambition to do it in the right way. Yes, they want a family, but not for the same reason you want a family. This is some of the things I work on with my clients in the relationship detox or my one-on-ones, is understanding what are your requirements? What do you want? How do you see in the person that you are with or the future person that you date? How do you identify if your values are in alignment? Right? So coming out of these relationships, letting go of the fantasy doesn't mean your life is over. It just means understanding the dynamics of what you went through, making the necessary mind shifts you need to make sure that doesn't happen to you again, so that you can select the correct person to apply that fantasy to. But love, hold on to that fantasy. God wants it for you just like you want it for you. But there is work to be done in order to execute that fantasy with the right person. I hope that this message blessed you. If you have any questions, email me, link below, DM me on Instagram, comment below, whatever is most comfortable for you. I am here live. This is not a live, but I am on live every morning, Monday to Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch me live there. Sometimes I go live at night. And if you want to go deeper, if you do want support to be able to move on and heal from a toxic and narcissistic relationship, click the links below, see what works for you best. The Relationship Detox is a great place to start, where you get access to my course, which teaches you everything you need to know to start that process of healing. Or even if you already started healing, but you need support to really get out of it. This is not where you want to be next year around this time. And you get free access to me inside of my private group coaching community called Thrive. All right. Y'all have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the next episode.